computer at home or wherever you can use it. I'm not talking about Google Docs. Google Docs is a different animal, okay? Word. If you don't, you have 365, Office 365. All you do is go to your email account, and it's up in the left-hand corner. You can download it onto up to 5 different devices, okay? So there's no excuse for you not to have Word. And that has Excel, it has PowerPoint, it has everything on it, 365. So, just so you know. But let's say that you already typed your, well, no, can't go there. The very first thing you have to do is set it up, because it's not going to set up automatically. All right? Now, the first thing you got to do is set it for Times New Roman 12. Why Times New Roman 12? Because every paper you write as you go through your higher level of education is going to require you to have Times New Roman 12. Even your dissertation for your doctorate will have to be Times New Roman 12 if you get that far. Okay? So let's just do it right the first time and continue to do it. Times New Roman 12 is what it's supposed to be. Then there, right here it says paragraph. You all see that? Yes? Okay. And you can click on that little thing right there, and this is how you're going to set it up. You're going to come down here, it says line spacing. You're going to say single space. I want to single space it. However, it will not actually single space unless you go over here and where it says before 0, it has to say after, and it has to say 0. If you don't do that, it's going to put those 8 points in anyway. And it's going to look like it's 1.5 times. Everybody with me? Okay? So you've got to set that all up first. Set it up as a default. Set it as a default because you can set it for just that document. You don't have to set it forever. Just set it for that, whenever you're typing your outlines. All right, so let's begin. Let's say that you've already typed your specific purpose and all that. You're into the body of your speech, and you're typing Roman numeral number 1. Okay, now that's your first margin. It's already set up. It's a 1-inch margin. That's kind of default margins. Now for your second margin, where this is going to start and where the A's and B's are going to come from, you're going to tab. You're going to go over, and because that sets, then you're going to know where that margin is, and it's not going to, be kind of sort of going over. All right. So I'm just going to type a bunch of nonsense stuff because I want you to see how this works. All right. Yes. I don't have anything to say to you. All right. Okay. So let's say that's your thing. Now, if you have Windows 10, okay, on your computers at home, you can just come down here and just press tab and it's going to throw it over, right? Okay? However, if you're in Google Docs or if you're in an older program or whatever, a lot of times when you tell this to go over, the whole thing goes over and it can drive you crazy. Don't fight it with it, okay? You simply just highlight it, and then cut it, and then you're going to come down onto that line, come over and line it up and just paste it in. See? So don't drive yourself crazy, trying to figure out why it's not going over and it's not lining up. All right. Now, after you type, let's say that's a main idea. It's your first main idea. Then you're going to double space for your second main idea. You want to double space between these. I've got it. All right. Now you're going to come down here. You're going to do the same thing. Tab over. You're going to type a bunch of stuff. Okay. And then you're going to come down. Let's say that you have some subpoints, an A and a B, to this. All right. So you're going to type an A, and then you're going to come over 3 spaces. 3. Okay. Really simple. You just want enough space that we know that that A or that B is not part of your sentence. Okay? And then you're going to type another full sentence. Now, if you have an A, you have to have a B. If you have a 1, you have to have a 2. I cannot pick up anything, break it in half into 2 pieces, and only have 1 piece. When you're breaking down ideas, it's the same thing. you gotta have more than one thought that you're breaking it down into, right? Okay? If you only have an A and you're like racking your brain, you can't think of a B, reread your sentence. I would bet money on the fact that it probably has some kind of conjunction in it, right? What's a conjunction? Tell me. Tell me. You want to sing the song? Conjunction, junction, what's your function? What's a conjunction?
Combination of two words.
Okay, like?
Can, not, and then combines into
No. No.
Is it like and?
That's contraction.
Like the words that get like the main clause and the independent clause and the
You got it.
dependent clause. Sorry.
Yeah. For most of us, it's just, you know, picking up clauses and words and phrases. Okay, that's, you know, it's and, or, but, those kinds of words, okay? Reread it. If you see that, then probably you can divide that take the and out and use the second half of it as the be. You see what I'm saying? It works pretty well, all right? Just try it, okay? Now, here's the other thing. If you have racked your brain and there's nothing there, then that's probably either another main point or you just eliminate it. It's just something extra that you threw in that wasn't necessary to be there. We good? Okay. All right then. Very good. Then, so make sure that when you're typing it, you're doing all these things and you're putting it in the way I'm telling you. It'll save you a lot of headaches. Are we good? Any questions so far? Nope, yes, no, maybe so, certainly. Okay? You never put a paragraph on an outline. Never. Okay? At least not when you're writing, right? Now, if you're quoting someone, yes, then that's a quote, but that's different. Right? Okay? I want one complete thought, one complete sentence next to any A, B, or number, whatever it is. Now you can have as many subpoints as you want underneath it. Are we good? Yeah? Everybody understand? So you're not going to sit down, you're not going to write paragraphs, right? This is what we call our preparation outline. It's a way to organize your thoughts and keep you on track. That central idea or thesis statement, whichever you call it, is meant to keep you from getting off track. How many of you have ever started writing something and all of a sudden you found yourself going way off on the, right, okay? It happens to most of us. It's kind of a stream of consciousness. You start with one thing and then all of a sudden you're over here. Your central idea is meant to keep you right there. Keep bringing you back. If you start varying, then you come back to it. Okay? Are we good with this? You gotta make sure. So, read all these things, make sure you're doing them. Don't worry about the citation stuff and stuff like this. That's for after midterm. Okay? But I wanted to put it on there so you have it. All right, let's see. What's next? Where should we go next? I want you to understand, I told you guys at the very beginning, I'm a why person. I want you to understand why this is so important. Okay? How many of you are planning on getting your degree? Okay, quite a few of you. All right. As you go through and choose your discipline that you're going to be majoring in, okay, you're going to get into that and they are going to require you to write several research papers. Those research papers are going to be requiring you to research sometimes 10 to 20 articles at a time. Compare them, contrast them, see if there's any differences. Now, academic journal articles, or peer-reviewed scholarly journals as we call them, are there to elevate the field, right? Okay? Your professors, as you get into your higher levels, are not trying to torture you by making you write these papers, okay? Why do you think it's so important for you to write research papers and have to do all this research? Why?
To demonstrate you have a mastery of the subject you're studying.
Absolutely. Nobody's going to give you a degree for sitting in a chair. in class. They have to know that you have read that research and that you know what things still need to be researched. This is where what I told you the very first day comes in. You look at things very differently than any other person on the face of this earth. When you're reading that research and you come to the end, to the discussion portion, and it says that, you know, obviously we didn't come up with an exact thing, so therefore more research is needed. You can be the person that comes up with, you know, well, you obviously missed this, right? So that's why you have to write these research papers. Now, I want you to understand the value of this outline. It's not just something you're going through and making yourself crazy writing. I want you to know how to write it, and I want you to know how to write well, because it can mean great things for you, grade-wise, and for your professors as you're going. At some point, if you're moving on to a higher college, okay, or university, one or the other, you are going to be in what we call lecture halls. Anybody ever seen a lecture hall? Okay? How many seats in that lecture hall? Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, we're talking, you know, and here we have 25 students. In there you have 150 to 450 students. That's a lot, right? You know? And some of those professors teach not just one lecture class. Some of them teach up to 3. Think about how many students that is. That's a lot of students, right? Okay? Now, you write one paper, how many does your professor read? He has to read them, right? How do you make yours stand out? That's what I'm saying. If you use the outline formation that I'm giving you, it can be used for writing your research papers and making them stand out. The first thing you had, how many of you have ever read a book because somebody said, oh, you're gonna love this book. You know, I read it and, oh man, I just loved it. It's a little slow at first, but it's really good. Anybody ever had that situation where somebody gave, and then you take the book and you read the first paragraph, or you read the first chapter, you know, you're hoping it's gonna get better by the second paragraph, but it doesn't. It's just kind of, you know, a yawn through the whole first chapter. You read the second chapter, it's not getting any better, you know? What do you do with the book?
Stop reading it.
Okay, yeah. You generally put it on the shelf and, you know, I'll do that when I have time later, you know? It's not a page turner, right? It's not a bestseller page turner that's gonna make you go, oh, God, stay up all night reading it, right? Well, you know, if you have, let's just say you have one class of 450 students, you know? Believe me, most of them are very yawn, and you know. I mean, they're not badly written, but they didn't go the extra mile. There's nothing that captures your attention in the beginning, and, you know, it's just not very interesting. And believe me, they've read it all before. Do you see what I'm saying? Okay? So, if you will use that introduction, if you will write the body of it first, with all your research and stuff, stick to those 5 points. Make sure that you're only covering 5 main points and that you have 5 different things that the research is focusing on. And then go back and do the strategic thing where you're capturing the audience's attention, motivating them to listen again, introducing the topic, and then previewing it. That will make your paper stand out, right? Because it's going to hit them in the very beginning. And then they're going to go, wow, this is a little different, you know? Then they're going to want to read the rest of it. You follow me? Okay. All right. Now, why is this important? Well, every single discipline that there is in a college, university, or a campus has its own conferences, sometimes 2 to 4 a year. Do you know what I'm talking about? Conference where you people from all over the country get together at these conferences in your discipline. They share ideas, they share their papers. Everybody follow? Okay? And at some given time during the preparation for the conference committee will send out letters to all of the professors in that discipline, and they will ask them if they have any students who have written really good papers that they could present at the conference. Because they're always looking for new ideas, new ways of looking at things. If you have a professor who likes your paper, he can come to you and say, I'd like to submit your paper to be presented at the conference. And you're always gonna go, sure, okay? Yes, even if there were errors, the professor will help you correct the errors and fix it up so that it's perfect when you send it in. That's their job. Now, the reason you wanna go yes is because it's generally 3 to 4 days, the conference is. You're gonna sit on a panel for 20 minutes. You're gonna take questions for the rest of the hour, and then you're free for the whole rest of the conference. And you can use it to network, okay? You can also use it to just have some fun and enjoy, right? And it's all on the college's dime. They pay for your airfare, they pay for your hotel rooms, they pay for most of your food, okay? Pretty good deal, right? Okay? And it's fun, you have a really good time. But here's what's more important, okay? You need to know that when you get there, you are not presenting just your paper. The problem is that you've written a 25-page paper and you have 20 minutes for you and 4 other people to present their papers. Can you even present one paper in that time? If it's 25 pages long? No, you cannot, all right? So this is where your outline comes in, right? Now keep thinking along these lines, right? I want you to stay with me here, because this is very important. If you have your outline to your paper, and you should have it kept, you can go to the body of that speech very quickly. You can literally glance down that. Now you wrote it, you know what's in it, okay? You can glance down the body of your outline, and you can pick out immediately what you feel is the most important main point that you're gonna focus on at that presentation. Are you all with me with that? And then you're gonna use the skills you learn in here, okay? You are going to focus just on that one main point, and then you're going to break it down a little bit. You're going to write a capture, you're going to write an introduction and a conclusion, and your capture is going to be, the lead in to the main point that you're going to focus on. However, your conclusion, because you're going to learn to do it extemporaneously, you are not reading your paper to these people. Don't let me hear that you're going to read your paper. You're not reading anything, okay? You're going to present it in a way that sounds like you really know what you're talking about because you wrote it. When you get to the conclusion, you simply say, obviously, I covered much more in my paper. In 4 minutes, I can't cover it all. However, the paper is in the read room, and I would, like to invite all of you to get a copy of the paper. And if you have any questions, I will be around all week, See what I'm saying? Every conference has what we call a read room. It's generally a ballroom where they put tables with everyone's paper who's presenting, and you can go pick up a copy of that paper. Somebody's job to make copies of all the papers. I don't know whose it is, but they do. So, now, why do you want your presentation to stand out as well as your paper? Because at that conference, we have what we call academic scouts. Academic scouts, just like you have baseball scouts, football scouts, soccer scouts. Do you all understand? Okay? They are there from some of the top prestigious colleges looking for people who would fit well into their graduate study program, into their fellowship programs, into their teaching assistant programs. If they like you and they invite you to come, interview with them. because that means that all of your graduate school books, courses, everything is paid for, along with a stipend to live on. Pretty good deal? How many of you know that graduate courses are very expensive? Yeah. And you can't generally get grants for those. That's the extra mile, you know? So I know it sounds like, I'm just, big deal about the outline, but I want you to have this tool when you leave my class. I want to know that you know how to handle yourself when you get up there. Right? That's what I'm supposed to be here teaching you. Yeah.
This is the universal outline for any.
Yep.
Okay.
For everything.
In any school.
Yep. Pretty much, I mean, you may get a professor that says, oh no, I just want you to double space it. That's really just because they prefer to have the spacing so that they can write on it and write comments to you, okay? Still use it this way. It's very difficult if you single space or double space an entire outline for you to glance at it and pick out where the main points are even, because it doesn't stand out. Are you following me? You want to say that? Okay. So make sure that you're doing it this way, and I appreciate making an effort. The other thing is these are instructions to follow. I give you instructions to follow. Well, when you get out in the real world and you get in business or wherever you're going, medical, whatever you're going into, somebody's going to give you instructions, and they're going to expect you to follow them to the T. So don't reinvent the wheel. Just follow the instructions. Okay? Are we good so far? Yes? All right. Now, let's talk a little bit about delivery for Monday. All right. And then I'm going to let you go. All right. Key things. There are some funny things that people do. In this class, you're going to learn to pay attention to your body and what it's doing while you're speaking. Because sometimes it's doing some pretty funny things while you're speaking, and you aren't even necessarily aware that you're doing them. Okay? Gentlemen, one of the ways that men generally leak the fact that they're nervous or a little bit, not feeling confident, let's just say, is they have a habit of putting their thumbs through their belt buckles, or through their belt loops rather, and or in their pockets, okay? And then there's this rocking motion that starts, okay? They put their feet together and they rock a little bit like this, and they talk, and then, oddly enough, you lose your neck. So, oh, you know what I'm talking about, Guys do this all the time. Okay, ladies, okay, we do. You know what I'm talking about? There's nothing wrong with your hair, you're just, continuously straightening it. Okay. Why are you doing that? Can you guess?
Because you're nervous.
Well, you're nervous, but it's even more than that. When do you do that? What do you do that for? Huh?
You're soothing yourself.
You're soothing yourself. It's also a way to flirt. It's a way to flirt with the audience. Ladies throw their hair when they want to flirt, You don't need to flirt with them. This is more businessy, okay? You don't need to flirt. Keep your hands away from your hair. The best way to do that is to pull your hair back, so that you don't have the temptation to continuously do this while you're speaking. Another thing that ladies do that I never can understand, because to me it's painful, for one, when we get into the latter speeches, when they're more professional and you're dressed in business attire, a lot of women wear small heels, not big heels, not the spiky things, but just small heels when they're giving a presentation. And then they'll stand up here, and I don't know if you can see my feet, but they place one foot on top of the other, like this. And I don't know why, because it gets you off balance, as well as hurts your toes. Are you standing like this? It just hurts. You also don't want to stand with your legs crossed. Women tend to do this. a lot. Guys, you tend to do this. Yeah, I don't know why they like to swing their legs, but they do. So just taking a normal step, it's like, okay. I don't know what that's about. The other thing that is universal for both men and women, okay, is this, okay? You watch this for 7 minutes straight, and you're gonna feel seasick after a while as an audience member, okay? You're gonna learn to pay attention to your body, because the nonverbal communication is everything, you know? You don't have to be confident, but you do have to look and act confident, right? Makes sense? So now what I'd like to do, I taught you about the introduction and how it should sound, capture, motivate, all that kind of stuff. I'm gonna do one for you so that you get the real sound of what it should sound like. All right? When I worked at Southern Illinois University, I had some people that I worked with who were competing in speech across the nation. And this young man put together this speech, and I like to use it because it's memorable. Okay? So when you come up here, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take a deep breath, let it out, and you're going to very quickly skim your audience and make sure everyone's looking at you. Okay? And then you can begin. In the next 5 minutes, while you're listening to my voice, 747 young people between the ages of 12 and 21 will attempt suicide. In those same 5 minutes, 332 will complete the act. Good afternoon. My name is Patty Deek, and today I'm going to be addressing teen suicide. Today I'm going to be covering how do we recognize when someone is in trouble. What we can do to help them through it. And last, what we can do for ourselves to cope if we lost someone. So now let me begin with how do we recognize signs of suicide. You all got it? Capture, motivate. Introduce yourself and your topic, preview the main points you're going to cover, and then transition into your body of your speech. All right. This is how it's not supposed to sound. So, hi. So in the next 5 minutes, while I'm, telling you about my speech, 747 people, young people between the ages of 12 and 21 will attempt to commit suicide, and in those same 5 minutes, 332 will actually complete the act. Hi, I'm Patty Deek, and today I'm going to talk about teen suicide, and I'm going to be talking about, I'm going to be talking about, how do you recognize when somebody's at risk, and then, maybe how you can help them through it, and then also, if you lose somebody to teen suicide, maybe some things you can do to help yourself. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with how to recognize, how to recognize when somebody's in trouble. Okay, that's where I'm going to start. What's the problem? Same information.
Too fast.
Too fast.
You're saying like and I'm too much and looking down.
Zero confidence.
Body movement is all wrong.
Body movement's all wrong. No confidence. It's leaking all over the place. It says I'm a nervous wreck. Right? You're going to write your preparation outline, but then you're going to use a note card to put what we call your speech outline on it. Now, it's not an outline, okay? I don't ever want to see one complete sentence on a note card. Do not write out your speech on your note cards. No one wants to be read to. I don't want you reading your speech to us. I want you to share the information with us. See what I'm saying? Because that's going to tell your audience that you know what you're talking about, that you are the person who's informed. Whereas if you stand up here and read it to us, you're not even in that speech. Do you see what I'm saying? You need to be there, interacting with us, looking up, talking to us. You're going to need to practice. I understand that. Some of you will make it to the whisper room, some of you won't. I don't care. You can practice in the mirror. You can practice to your dog. I don't care who you practice to. You know, just practice. Practice. It's going to be different every time you do it because it's an extemporaneous speech. Okay? It's not memorized and it's not a manuscript. It's extemporaneous, and that means that you know the material so well that you can just speak to it. I do not sit back there with your outline and say, oh, they missed this, they missed it. No. Even when you're giving a formal presentation, there may be key things that you decide to elect to leave out. But they're on your outline just so you know what you need to address, and you can pick and choose from those. Everybody following me? Same thing when you're writing a paper from that outline. You may decide not to include everything you've written on the outline. Do you feel better now? Do you feel like you know kind of what you're doing? Kind of, sort of? Okay. We'll work on the skills portion. Just have fun with it as far as what you want to share. Be honest. That's what I'm looking for. Honesty. Right? Because that's what's going to touch someone. You're going to make a difference in somebody's life on that. Okay? Goodbye.